Kingsman: The Golden Circle is the sequel to the very surprising Kingsman: The Secret Service, and this movie stars Taron Egerton, Mark Strong, Channing Tatum, and Julianne Moore.
And Matthew Vaughn returns to direct this one, and also he's rumored to direct the future Man of Steel sequel.
And we are back with Eggsy and the Kingsmen, and after their headquarters are destroyed, the remaining Kingsmen must join forces with their cousin organization in the US called the Statesmen to fight back against their new enemy named Poppy, played by Julianne Moore.
Now, this was a movie that I honestly felt was really unnecessary to be made, but when you really think about it, it was sort of inevitable because the first one was a spy movie and it was so successful that of course they're going to make another one. But I just felt like it was really unneeded.
Now, my feelings for this movie are a little weird because this movie actually starts off pretty good and then it kind of drops down and then picks up again and then drops back down. And it kind of does that continuously throughout the entire movie. But I want to go ahead and start off with the good points first and then we'll move on to the bad ones.
The strongest point for this movie is definitely the action. They sort of did this with the first movie, where it sort of has a video gamey feeling to where it doesn't look too fake necessarily, but it doesn't really look completely real. It's sort of a sweet spot to where it's like a combination of the both, and it looks really cool.
Also, kind of coming from that point, this movie actually does still have that Kingsman feel like from the first one. And, you know, it doesn't have it as much so in always a positive direction, but I'll go to that point later. But there's a lot of things in this movie that really do feel like I am watching a Kingsman movie. All the characters, you know, they're still the same people and you still love them just the same.
And this movie definitely had really good acting, which isn't too surprising because they had sort of an A-list cast with the actors that Marquez said earlier. But you also had like Halle Berry, you had Colin Firth, you had Jeff Bridges, so pretty much everybody in this movie has some reputation in Hollywood of being a good actor.
And to add on to that, with Julianne Moore, I will say I did like her acting for the character they gave her. Like I said earlier, I don't want to bring up too many bad points, but I wasn't really a huge fan of the character that she was, but I did think that she did well with what she was given. And then a lot of this acting did help out with creating emotion, because there is a few scenes in this movie that actually do make you feel a little bit sad. They don't really always get caught up on them, but you know, they really are truly emotional at certain points in this film. And before we get into our negatives, I don't want you to think that I'm just trying to like really look deep for good things, because there were a few scenes in this movie that I just absolutely loved. I felt like these scenes really did well with the message and what they're trying to get across from these scenes. Now, this movie actually kind of reminded us of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, in which they got certain things from the first one, like really great things from the first one, certain elements, and they decided to just completely amplify them because they had no idea how to utilize them and what made them so great in the first.
They tried to do a couple callbacks to the first movie. They didn't do too many, but the few that they did just didn't really land well at all.
The character Poppy, played by Julianne Moore in this movie, is the villain, and she seemed like kind of a villain like in the first Kingsman, Samuel L. Jackson, kind of that non-traditional villain. But it just really didn't come off very well because they tried to push her evilness at certain moments, and it was pretty much just a character that was evil for the sake of being evil, because whenever they tried to explain her plan, they never really fully let it out there to know, so I actually fully understood what her plan was, and her motivation was just like very weak, and it was just kind of hard to understand what was going on with her character.
Now, this next point I'm going to bring up, it was in the trailer, so it's not necessarily a spoiler, but just in case if you haven't seen the trailer yet, or if you don't plan on seeing the trailer, I won't say which character it was, but they did bring back a character from the first movie, and I feel like they really shouldn't have, because it was really unnecessary, and it really took away from the impact of the first movie. And it really took away time that could have been spent towards building up the rest of the story that was in this movie. And they got Elton John to play in this movie, and he actually plays himself. And I know he's a mega superstar, so they want to play up that he's actually in this movie. But there's certain times where they sort of overdo it, and it sort of takes away from the rest of the plot of the movie.
Yeah, and to add on to that, there are a few times they do that with the A-listers, and it doesn't go as far as to be distracting, but like there's certain scenes where they get like an A-list actor on the screen, and it does this very awkward zoom in or something just to let us know, hey guys, we got these A-list actors this time, because you know this movie probably had a higher budget than the first one because of how successful the first one actually was. And in all honesty, I kind of feel like that might have been a hindrance to this movie because they got this larger budget, so they didn't really probably know what to do with it, and they kind of just wanted to go all out, and it just became a little too much at times. And like I said earlier, this movie is really a roller coaster with how, you know, if it's good, bad, because it just goes back and forth throughout the entire movie. But probably the first time it gets bad, it really does get like really bad and dragged down, because it just gets really awkward because they start trying to explain things that happen with all this weird exposition and these awkward flashbacks, and I felt like a lot of those were kind of unneeded. So guys, this movie is actually a lot of fun. It's not a great movie at all, so don't go in there thinking that it's going to be anywhere near as amazing as the first one, because you will be let down. But you know, go in there expecting to have a little bit of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Kingsman: The Golden Circle is 65% awesome.
Yeah guys, pretty much exactly what Marquez said. It's not like a great movie. It's definitely a fun one. You're going to have a good time while watching it. It's definitely not as good as the first one. So I'm going to say Kingsman: The Golden Circle is 75% awesome.
Well guys, don't forget to like and share this video. Also comment below and let us know what you thought about this movie, and maybe even if you liked this one more than the first one.
And if you want, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. They're all at 2awesomemen.
And if you're interested, you can click right here to subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.